I'd like to call this meeting to order. Can we do a roll call, please? Or actually, no, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioner LaRose, would you be so kind to do the roll call, please?
Layton.
Here.
Walsh.
Here.
Andres.
Here.
Garland.
Here.
LaRose, yes. Stasinski.
Here.
Okay. And then, has everybody had a chance to look over the agenda? And is there anybody out there that'd like to make a motion in a second to approve the agenda?
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented to us for Monday, August 16th.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carried. Is there any conflict of interest? Does anybody see themselves having a conflict of interest with anything in the agenda here? If not, I will move forward to the item F, public comment. Is anybody in the public wanting to talk at the moment? I imagine, Elise, you'll probably talk at the agenda item. Okay. All right, item G, approval of the minutes. Everybody wants to give a look at those, and then I'll take a motion in a second, please.
I make a motion to approve July 19th, 2021 regular meeting minutes as presented in our packet.
Support.
All right, support by Garland. All right. Motion by LaRose, second by Garland. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. All right, and then looks like we're going to go down to item H1, letter A, Board of Trustees, July 12th, 2021 minutes. Has anybody got any feedback or would like to say anything regarding the minutes?
The Board of Trustees doing a wonderful job. Just
All right, I think it's safe to move on to B, Planning Commission, July 6th, 2021, July 20th, 2021. I have a quick question. Is it the GO-REC? It looks like they're looking to be recognized as a park. So how would that work? Are they looking to have it as an East Bay Park?
So the GO-REC came before the Planning Commission for a sketch plan review, and that's kind of an informal introduction to what they're looking at doing. They had originally considered bringing it before the township for consideration as a private park, because both publicly and privately owned parks are uses permitted by right in the Lakes Area Zoning District, which is what they're zoned. Since then, there was some feedback from the Planning Commission as well as members of the public. I think at this point, they're looking at doing it through a PUD, a planned unit development, and so most likely they'll be back within the next month or so to go through that process.
Okay, and so, I mean, after that process, then would they be recognized as a park? I guess I'm a little
I
confused.
think it would be not necessarily a park, but I think as a part of that process, they'd present their intended uses, which is environmental education, some camps and campground, cabin usage. So continuation of existing uses as well as some kind of additional education, environmental education and outreach.
Okay.
That's what they're looking at.
All right. All right, anybody else have anything for the planning commission minutes? All right, then we'll move down to C, the zoning board of appeals. There is none. On item I, item 1 of I, treasurer deferred to the agenda item, so I'm guessing we're probably gonna just skip until we move to J. Does that sound,
Yes, we are.
Okay.
As the treasurer, we are skipping to J.
skipping a J, okay. All right, subcommittees, the community garden.
We have a subcommittee. Annalise is going to tell you all about it.
Everyone. So I just
Hello.
wanted to recap just our conversation. So Susan, Corey, and I met before this meeting. We think that will be our standing meeting time, so that when we invite the larger group that we discussed last month, we'll invite them to join us at 4:30 PM here, and we'll post that, so you can come, anyone can come, and that'll be a standing time until the project is complete. We identified 3 main topics for our first subcommittee meeting, which will be on September 20th. 2021, I think, or the date of your next meeting.
September
The third Monday of the
20th.
month.
Yeah, September 20th at 4:30. So that'll be our first, today was not really a subcommittee meeting, because the 3 of us kind of brainstormed. So that'll be our first kind of kickoff meeting, and we're going to talk through the project timeline with our partners who join us, community listening process, so what questions do we want to ask, and how do we want to ask them, and how are we going to get the word out that those opportunities are out there to the community, and then internal research homework for members of that team. So who's contacting what community garden to find out more about maintenance models or how they designed this. And if we already have that information, great, we just need to bring it to the center so that we can all see it. And if there's new questions that we need to ask and answer, we'll designate those to Susan, Corey, myself, and other members of the team. So those are the 3 topics that we'd like to discuss with that larger team, which will be composed of reps from Corey and Susan and myself, and then we identified 3 people who've been involved in the past from MSU Extension, and then a representative from each school, each of the 4 schools, from the Grand Traverse Conservation District and the library. And then also a representative from the community at large, just a resident or 2. So that list is 13 to 14 people. We don't anticipate that everyone will be able to attend, but that's the list we're working from. And my next steps are to draft that invitation, which will go to Corey, Susan, Claire, and Beth for approval. And then we'll send that out to that group. And then I'll put together a draft agenda for that group to meet on September 20th. So the last kind of update, I think, for this group is our tentative time, like broad strokes timeframe, is that we'll be doing community engagement, asking those questions of how do we want to use the garden, what price point's acceptable, what amenities are you looking for, which stakeholders are looking for, are there senior citizens interested, is it mostly school children, that kind of thing. We'll be looking at that community engagement occurring by November, so fall time, and then a report, what we hear, what we learn by December, by the holidays. And then in January, in the beginning of the new year, working with our professional team, so an engineer, or to actually design an updated concept plan based on what we hear, which aligns nicely with the timelines for grants that we've identified. We would be submitting those grant applications in the spring. So January to spring is when we'd be looking for funding. So engagement in the fall, what we learned by December, working with an engineer in the new year, and then funding applications in the spring. So we sort of identified that our pitch to our partners would be, we're looking to secure funding for this project by 2022. Any questions for myself, for Susan, for Corey? Corey or Susan, did I miss anything?
All right.
It'd be nice to get some kind of engineer, or maybe we would know by late fall, so that they could actually come out and look at the land before the snow falls. Too. So that's just a thought that just came to my mind.
So with selecting an engineer, something like that, I mean, do we have someone that we already work with that we would be retaining to do this, or do we have to do the RFQ?
Not necessarily. I don't know if we'd have to go out for RFP. It would be dependent on the cost of the services. You know, we do have Wade Trim, but we could look elsewhere for a local firm. We used Beckett and Rader in the past, but there's other landscape architecture firms that we could take a look at. And I think depending on the estimated costs would determine whether or not we'd have to go out for RFP.
Is that based on the East Bay purchasing policy?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Do you know what that number is off the top of your head, by chance? Okay.
I think it's around 3,000 or 5,000.
So it probably will be going
Yeah.
over, okay.
Unless there's a compelling reason that we would stick with, you know, a firm that's already started working on it. And there's some instances in which RFP isn't required.
Okay.
We have a plan, we just.
Yeah, so if we're looking to
based on
update
our
that
commu-
and
yeah,
keep it
Based on the
with,
community feedback, we may have to update that.
so if we're keeping with that same firm that was contracted under a grant, then that could be appropriate to just work with, continue to
Okay.
work with them.
Yeah, I was just wondering what our guided model would be for the language in the RFQ and all that to see. Because I know how big of a headache that can be. But, you know, it sounds like we got something to work with anyway, so we should be good.
That does prompt a question about, so if we were to work with, Susan, your point about involving that engineer in the process sooner, if they're able and have capacity and there's the budget to support that time, I think that could be helpful, particularly if we were to continue with the same firm that helped with the first concept plan, Beckett and Rader. It'd be good to say, hey, we're back at this. I think I would appreciate, as a consultant, it would be helpful to know that if I were to be pulled back in later in the process.
Sure.
So has there been a decision made by this group that, I mean, has that been discussed? Is that something that we need to discuss? That I can help facilitate a discussion around whether to go back to an engineering firm we worked with or to seek a new firm?
My question is, what's the difference between Beckett and Rader and Wade Trim? Wade Trim, right? Aren't they both?
And my question is, I'd like to find out who would be more understandable in the designing of it as an engineer, as keeping with the lay of the land, the current slope, without bulldozing and all that. So that's my main thing I'm looking for. And I don't know if either of those two have that capability, but I bet you Michigan State University Extension Services, you know, they might have more familiar engineers that are going to be used to doing this kind of look.
When I was working at Beckett and Rader when that firm was, and I wasn't the landscape architect, but I know that at the time, the landscape architect came to the site, looked pretty carefully at the site, was able to, I think one benefit with choosing a firm like Beckett and Rader is having local landscape architects. I think having a firm where you can have whoever the consultant is come on site and take a look at it and
But
take
they're
a look at the
both, because I know
topography.
we've used Wade Trim for other projects, but they're both like
Both have
environmental-
similar
they're-
suite of services.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't know why we have, and maybe it was just the bid. Because it seems to me like we were trying to keep things in-house with one organization.
Yeah.
But we've got, some of the parks projects are with this company and some of the parks projects were.
I think
with that.
Wade Trim's landscape architects are not local. They've got their engineers local.
Okay.
Well, how about if I reach out to MSU, if they have any insight on local engineering with what we're looking to do?
I think what we have to do, it sounds like there's no avoiding the RFP or RFQ, you know, if it goes beyond the dollar amount, which I imagine that it will. You know, so we should probably figure out what kind of, what we're looking for design-wise and, you know, so we could, you know, put an RFQ together. That way, you know, it's ready and we kind of know what we're looking for and, you know, we can, you know, open it up and, you know, do a comparison because I know it makes sense to have one company, you know, and it's cleaner that way, but, you know, I kind of feel like we're kind of circling a discussion around two and there might be others out there and, you know, and nothing's set in stone until we know who responds. Because, Becca and Rader might not respond, or Wade Trey might not respond, or, maybe they're too busy to take on, another project, So I guess it'd be helpful to kind of know what we're getting ourselves into by having some sort of template or something to go off of, which I think we probably can get from the previous design, I imagine. I mean, has it changed a whole lot since?
Yes.
Okay,
When we revisited it, it changed considerably from what Beckett and Rader had presented.
okay.
But we also need our community feedback to know what
Right.
we're going to, because if the community's not interested
Yeah.
at the scope of what we believe they will be, well, it
Yeah.
depends on if it's smaller or larger.
That's a good point.
Again, I'm just looking at that architect, not getting involved with how big, how little, looking at the lay of the land, what can we do more naturally without erupting and creating drainage and runoff and all of that. So whoever has that most expertise, it would be good. I don't know if there's certain firms out there that are expertise in it or
Well,
not.
that's information you can get with your connection now with MSU.
Mhm.
So I'll be looking forward to, and maybe they're like,
Me
yeah,
too.
Beckett.
Are there other firms that you've worked with in the past that you would recommend?
No, I've worked with both of those.
Okay.
I'm sure
Okay.
there's other engineering firms, but, and there's other landscape architecture firms in the area, certainly. So yes, if you put out an RFP, I'm sure there'd be others that might be interested. I think, Susan, your suggestion to talk with your contacts at the extension office to find out who they recommend would be good. And maybe it's just, even if someone would volunteer an hour of their time, right, to come down and look at the site before the snow flies, I think that would be prudent if that brings the committee and then the commission peace of mind that we've had someone look at the site. Because you're right, with our current conversation, we'd be in conversation with an engineer in January, which is
Not a good time.
a less than ideal time to be doing a tour of a
Yeah.
private site. So I think that's good to put on the radar, and I would imagine that at our first meeting in September, the team can brainstorm around that.
Okay.
And add that into the timeline.
And I'll be in contact with my contact and then send out that so we can get the ball rolling on that before the next meeting.
Great.
So see if they have some insight.
Thank you.
Have the community members been identified?
No, we did have one person that I'm thinking of through my work with the focus groups facilitation with Claire, who specifically mentioned a garden and farmers market at the Township Hall and her interest in that. So I was going to comb through my notes and identify that person. But it's not she did not say she wanted to be a part of a team. So that's just my recollection of her interest, and that may or may not pan out. But I think we're open to suggestions. And open to relationship building if you know of someone, Sabrina, or anyone else who might be interested. I think Susan and Corey would be
It'd be nice.
would be interested in that, so.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to be kind of proactive here. It sounds like it might, as far as staff, I know staff usually probably puts the RFQs together, but, I was just trying to have that on the beginning of the conversations, because I know we'll probably have to go through that process, so it's, helpful to do it ahead of time, but, if it's going outside of our bounds with what you guys do on a regular basis, please let us know.
Okay, no, I think,
We've dealt with them before, the Parks Commission has.
Okay.
We've done that before with Jen's Park and,
yeah, we
Okay.
can, staff can
Grace.
certainly put it together, informed
Yeah.
by Elise
Sure.
and the subcommittee, so. I don't
Okay.
think that should be
yeah,
too
so we don't have to worry about that.
Okay, cool.
We gotta do it.
Well, does anybody else have anything else for Elise? Thank you for the update.
Thank you very much, Elise.
Now, business before the Parks Commission, item 1, the 2022 budget request and 2021 fund balance adjustments. I believe,
Yeah. So if you guys remember last month, we talked about how this meeting, we were going to have to put together our budget requests for the 2022 fiscal year. So we need to, and we did identify our projects last month, which I'm confident I wrote down somewhere, and I cannot find that. So, projects for next year that we need to get budget for, and then if we have money in a line item that we will not be spending in 2021, do we want to reallocate it? Do we want to give it back? We have plans for it. This is what I remember. We want, okay, we have our Butis number 5, and it looks like that adjustment's already been made on the last sheet in your budget here. And then future park purchase. Those are things, you know, obviously we have to meet the match for our grant, and then future park is just something we're doing every year. And then for other projects, I remember warming hut, community garden, and dog park. Any other?
And could I just real quick add, I talked with Beth a little bit, and she had kind of set up the template for this discussion. You'll see a lot of the beginning pages go through the revenue and expenditures for this fiscal year, just so you can kind of get a feel for the general fund and where the parks projects line up with the other budget items within the township. The two most important pages to pay attention to that Beth put together is the second to last page, which is basically the budget. So it shows the 2021 budget, the amended budget, any activity, projected activity, and then for 2022, what Beth is recommending.
Okay.
And you would fill this up, you'd fill out the last column in this in terms of what you're requesting for your 2022 budget. So that's the second to last page. And then the other piece that Beth was looking for guidance from the Parks Commission on is the fund balance. And so you'll see the township-wide, we have a fund balance of about $3.56 million. That's for township-wide. But she highlighted the items that are related to parks. So she's got the existing fund balance. She's got some recommended changes to the fund balance. And then what the suggested balance is what that would amount to based on those recommended changes. So you'll see that those are kind of the two discussions that she's looking to have. So you guys kind of putting together a budget that you would present to the township board for 2022 for the Parks Commission, and then any recommended changes or adjustments to the fund balance, with kind of looking forward to the types of projects and consulting activities and stuff like that that you're looking for. So I'd be happy to offer some insight on some of those. I went line by line with Beth just to kind of find out what they are and some of the reasoning behind that. But
Go for it.
do you guys want to start with the budget discussion?
Well, before we go any further, I want to confirm our projects for the next couple of years. Because if we're going to do the community garden, as you heard from Elise, we're going to, before we go out for the grant, we're going to have those consulting fees. So we're going to have to put that in the 2022 budget. Or any other things, like the warming hut. I know we've talked about the warming hut. Again, consulting fees, dog park consulting fees. That's probably more, and maybe I'm wrong, but the consulting fees for our upcoming projects that are not our Butis number 5 probably need to be in the budget for next year so that we can get that ball rolling, so that we're looking at a 2023 build on. And it seemed, was the water park, not the water park, was the warming hut sooner?
I thought it was.
Yeah, it seemed like that was
Winter yet.
trying to move, I thought we were trying to move forward with that as quickly as possible.
But I don't have anything. We were waiting for plans. Weren't plans coming?
I
Right.
I thought Beth was looking into something.
Can't recall, I know, I thought she gave us some pictures at a previous meeting.
Pretty sure I saw concept plan.
We saw concepts, and then we were gonna get,
A final on that pavilion, and then,
on the price.
and on the bathrooms for
Number 5?
Uh-huh.
So if you remember me saying last month too, I was like, I know what projects we want to do, but I don't know how to allocate money. I don't have like a foundation of what to ask for.
So I'm
So
trying
you
to,
can't think of anything besides Warming Hut, Community Garden, Dog Park, Arbutus, number 5, and future park purchases. We have money in trails for the Safe Routes to School. I call it Safe Routes to School, but it has a different name for the 3-mile trail.
The maintenance agreement. So that, the page, the second to last page is basically what you'd be looking to spend over the next year on those items. So she put $20,000 into grant writing, engineering, kind of some of the contract services, as well as recommending an additional $10,000 to the Holiday Woodlands natural area that could include consultant and design conceptual planning process. In terms of some of the other projects, if those don't occur in the next year, there's still some fund balance allocated for them, including improvements, improvements to Killingsworth, Pine Grove, the Community Garden, Hammond Park, Jens Park, Grace Mcdonald, as well as potential acquisition of park property. So those would all be fund balance for future, future expenditures, whether it's next year or into the future.
So I have a question. In the spring, when we went and visited all the parks, we talked about picnic tables here and there, which I know were little things, but is that part of this budget that we're looking to, or is that something that was just going to be done, or?
I think that might have been more of a grounds and maintenance budget item.
Okay.
I think general fund item. I
yeah,
remember, yeah, general fund.
this is, yeah, that gets a little confusing for me because, I mean, at my work, we budget for those kind of things too, but here it's kind of separated. So, so we don't have to worry about like budgeting for like picnic tables and stuff, that.
The basketball goals that we've been talking about?
Yeah, I
That
think
we
that
might.
generally it's broken up by kind of the ongoing maintenance versus some of the capital projects. So capital projects are generally budgeted within the Parks Commission department, but we do have ongoing maintenance through just the facilities and parks. So I think
Okay.
a lot of those smaller items are budgeted elsewhere in the 101
So
fund.
more around planning and services like that was what we'll
And
plan for.
some of the larger
Okay.
capital projects.
Okay. And then, I think, this year we budgeted for like, parks. I'm not sure if you guys were able to take advantage of anything with that this year because of COVID and all. But I know that they're doing their conference in Traverse City next year too. So if that's something you guys want to do, we could put that in the budget as well. I'm not exactly sure how much. I know, staff can get a membership, and then usually the commission is, added on in addition to, and I don't think there's really a fee for that, but I can't remember. You'd have to look into it more if that was something you guys were interested in.
That warming hut, was that part of this already, this year's budget? Or for future?
I think it was for future, because, it kind of came late in the discussion, but because I know we talked about, the water tower property, the
We
trail.
were talking about getting it done yet this year, to my understanding.
Yeah.
That's familiar, but we were gonna reach out for plans and prices,
But that,
and I don't see any of that.
those costs still might be in this year's budget, though, I imagine.
But I don't remember ever budgeting for it. It was just a general fund item.
Or maybe money was moved, maybe?
Could have been.
Something to look into, but, I imagine that we'll probably group the projects together and, have what, a healthy amount in there. And then we can prioritize them as we go through them for next year, so. if the warming hut just happens to be the one that comes up first, then we can pull from that and,
Last year, does anybody remember how much money we set aside for future park purchases or future properties?
30,000 a year, or maybe it was 40,000 a year.
Yeah, right now there's about 69,000 in there, and so Beth was recommending an additional 30, which
30,
would
yeah,
get
I
you up
agree with
to
that one, too.
$100,000 in the
Yep, I
fund
agree.
balance.
That's about on par with what we've been doing. Maybe we started at 20 and just been bumping it up as we go. But that's, am I reading this correct, that the blue is kind of detailing a little bit more up here, like maybe for some note writing? Okay. Because if you guys look at this last sheet, you'll see the first blue highlighted block, you see 706.000 board meeting fees. If you go up to the top, you'll see 101-751-, and now it matches
Yeah,
706.
so these must be Beth's insight.
Yeah, so this, I think this is her way of saying take notes in the blue.
Attorney, engineering grant fees, funds for grant writing. Yeah, we need funds for grant writing.
So our funds were very
engineering.
high this year because of Arbutus number 5.
And
Requested.
Holiday Woodlands.
Yeah, Holiday Woodland seed money for trail planning would be the 10,000. Correct me if I'm wrong. Tart Trail snow removal for the maintenance agreement, what was that, 5,000?
Well, let's just jump in. Community garden, between the consulting fees, the engineering, the construct, destruct. We had one estimate, and that was like 32,000, which I thought was extremely
But that was
way
for the
low.
whole thing. That was for the whole kit and caboodle.
So I'm suggesting 60,000 for the community garden. The dog park, I might be high on the dog park, I'm just shooting thoughts out there. 20 to 30 on that, warming
Well, are
hut.
you talking about completion, start and finish? Or
I'm
you
talking about budgeting for 2022.
Right, I know, but I'm talking
2022.
about the entire project, because if we look at the attorney engineering grant fees, that's just for the,
yeah, that's just,
Paperwork.
the planning services is
I'm
what
saying
we're
for the-
budgeting for.
you're saying the whole thing.
Exactly.
But that's not what that's not what's being sorry, it's not being broke down like that in front of us. But I hear what you're saying.
And then future parks, 30,000. Holiday Woodlands, again, I don't know where the movement is on that for the next coming year. Again, it's a shot in, I mean, I'm just saying maybe 20,000. So how much is all that?
I think for Holiday Woodlands, we were looking at getting a seed grant from Rotary to do some trailing, planning for conceptual design, and we have a consultant that we're hoping to engage,
So
so
maybe-
we're looking at about
Yeah,
10,000
so-
from the township, an additional 10,000 match.
So maybe a 10,000 would be a good start.
Yep.
Okay.
Where are you at, I'm sorry?
And that's
Of Holiday
what,
Woodlands?
yeah, and that's what's listed, I think, right now is
Yeah.
$10,000.
Okay, and then future parks, we already got that figured out, 30. Warming hut, I'm just saying 10,000, because again, I thought that money was coming out of this year's yet budget, but I don't know. And dog park,
Well, that's Hammond Park.
Hammond Park,
Should probably be consistent with what I say when I talk about stuff. I'm sorry, guys.
okay, Hammond Park. 30 might be even high, because I think we're going to sort of maybe tiptoe in on that project.
So, I mean, we
So we could
budgeted,
maybe do 20,000 instead of 30 if we had to give anything.
so for this year, we budgeted 65,000 for the engineering and attorney and grant fees. And that was just for Arbutus 5, community garden. And was there anything, maybe a little bit of that already went to the warming hut, so.
I'm sure
I imagine that 65 number would, what we'd budget into 2022 would be fairly comparable to what that is. Maybe a little more, depending on how much momentum we build. But I'd say, maybe 70,000 would be a safe number to go off of.
I think Beth is recommending 20,000 in comparison to the 15,000 that was originally budgeted in 2021. I think the reason that you see it higher, up to the amended budget up to 65, was probably the engineering associated with Arbutus
With
number
Arbutus
5.
I remember intentionally bumping it
Okay.
because of Arbutus number 5, activity through. So it says 2021 projected activity, so we're projecting 40,000 and asking for 20? Is that how this reads?
That's just for so right now, we're projecting that the ending expenditure for that line item is going to be about $40,000.
I'm with you.
For the 2021 fiscal year.
Okay.
And was it recommended then to stick with 20 on that, attorney?
Okay,
fees?
so
Yeah,
it was
just
recommended,
stick with
sorry,
20.
Sue. It was recommended at 15,000, we bumped it to 65. We're projecting we're gonna spend 40. Is that how that reads? Okay. 20,000, if, our only project this year was Arbutus number 5. But that, it was a big project. But I would imagine 3 small projects would equal 1 big project. 20 just seems low to me.
Yeah, I feel like maybe 20 would be like almost enough for one project.
I'm thinking 1 3/4 project.
Did you say you had some thoughts from Beth?
Yeah, that's what
These are
I
it.
suggested
I
to
feel
stay
like-
with 20.
This is Beth is recommending 20,000.
I thought you said you also had some other details. of this.
She had a few more thoughts on some of the fund balance, on some of the changes or reallocations that she was recommending. So nothing related to this. The one thing that I did talk with her about that would be a part of this line item, attorney, engineering, grant fees, contract services. We did discuss maybe having some sort of like a consultant or a firm that facilitated the Parks Commission meetings, so allocating some funding that would go to, preparation of board packet, minute taking, those types of things, just because right now we're limited on our full-time staff, and so, Beth is spread fairly thin with staffing the Parks Commission. And so as opposed to having kind of more a hodgepodge of staffing, have one dedicated, maybe contractor or consultant or something to staff.
Yeah.
So that certainly would be an opportunity for the Parks Commission to allocate maybe $12,000, so $1,000 per month to having someone that was, full-time staffing the commission and having some continuity.
I'd be on board with that.
Well, so now we're up to 32,000. Right.
Under 801001.
Yeah. Because she's recommending 20, we're recommending more, and then having that kind of, that
Then you just
staff
add another
member.
12, yeah.
Yeah.
I just feel like we're gonna need more in there than that 20,000.
I mean, Beth might be thinking of the general fund to cover a couple fees that we're just overlooking at the moment.
Yeah,
But that can always,
Let's just go with 32.
I say go with 40.
So her recommendation
too
for
high.
20,000 is just, in her notes, is for the community garden in Hammond Park. So that's not,
And
The
we
warming
also wanna
hut.
do the warming hut.
so 10,000 per project. So 30,000 for 3 projects roughly.
I still feel like that's low, but, because, with the Hammond Park, we were talking about a walking area, a adult exercise area, and a dog park
That's
area.
all for next year, or just the dog park.
Well, it just depends how far we go with it, I guess. I don't know. But, I guess, this is pulling it from fund balance. So I guess, worst case scenario, we could amend the budget into next year. Maybe that's what maybe that's her strategy is, to, go with what we know we'll use, and then if we need more money, we'll ask for more money.
Yeah, I think that you want to be, just kind of looking back at the past few years, it's hard to
Yeah.
take off more than to really focus in on a project and implementing a project.
And I imagine the township probably has some big projects next year too, so you guys are going to be pretty tied up, and so.
Well, I think from just looking at the Parks Commission, I think taking on one big project per year, while working, planning some other ones or laying the groundwork, but it's probably
But we've
most
never felt like the
realistic.
warming hut was a big project. I never thought, and with the Hammond Park, I'm of the mindset, build the dog park first, because I think that's an immediate community demand, but have the mindset of, we'll eventually put in a trail.
Walking trails are going to be the easiest, probably the least expensive of anything in there. And then the exercise equipment for the seniors is what we were looking at originally. That could maybe get through some funding, so I don't see a great expense in those
I'm kind
unless,
of comparing everything to number 5. Like, to me, the warming hut, the community garden, and a dog park are nothing compared to what we just did.
so
Okay.
we keep going around in circles. Okay, so
Yeah, thank you.
attorney, engineer, grant fees, are we at 32 or are we at 20?
Well, right off the bat, we're at 32.
Why don't we recommend to bet 32, and, when is the budget being reviewed at township level? Like, are we going to be able to look at this one more time, or?
Yeah, September, October.
Okay, so, we could recommend 32, and if Beth would like to come back to us and let us know, her reasoning of, to keep it at 20, we can revisit that. But, as far as, being able to move forward here with going through these numbers, why don't we just say 32?
So for the Holiday Woodlands, she's looking at 10,000? Does that line go with that,
Yeah.
or is that?
Yeah, because Claire mentioned you're looking for some Rotary contribution.
Okay, so are we all in agreement of 10,000 for that?
Yes.
Tart Trail Maintenance Agreement, for those of you that don't know, it says Tart Snow Removal. That's what it is. The Tart Trail, that's in East Bay Township. We help pay for that snow removal.
And 5, that looks to be good, yeah? Right?
How come it started out at 10 and now it's whittled, and then it went down to, now it's down to 5? Was there just, they were finding that it wasn't taking up?
Could be less, it didn't snow hardly at all.
Yeah, and I
That's
think
true.
they were, but.
And we're not paying for it entirely, we're sharing,
Okay.
Yeah.
correct? We're
Maybe-
sharing that.
Didn't
This
they get
puts
more
in the
partners
East Bay
involved?
Township.
Maybe. It looks like they're projecting about 3,000 for 2021 will be spent on that, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would that budget would probably have to go
Oh,
up.
well, it
once
was
the-
closed for a while, too.
Yeah. That budget eventually will have to be increased with the 3-mile portion too, so,
Right.
yeah.
Good call. So we said 3, we agreed with that. All right, if we go back up to top, 706, board meeting and fees, special meetings and fees, supplies miscellaneous.
So,
We've never really had a conflict with those budget items. They've matched usually what we needed.
So those are all good as presented. So 10,600 and 1,500.
so really the only one that we want to make a change to is the 751 801 the attorney, engineer, and grant fees. We're recommending 12,000 more in that, and then we're going to keep the 10,000 for the woodland natural area the same. and 5,000 for the Tart Trail maintenance agreement. And everything else is the same, correct?
Well, we gotta flip it over. Flip your page over. So we had money in the Grace Mcdonald Park improvements that got paid for by the general fund. So that money was still in there, yes? So what is she recommending as far as, I see how she wants to delete the little libraries because it was such a small, we only had $300, so why are we holding on to that? And then parks constructed restriction, I think that's one of those line items that has been sitting around for a while and nobody on the current
I think it
board
was
remembers.
restricted because of the source of the funds, so they were grant funds, they need to be used for certain.
From like
But
10 years ago.
The township has paid well over $8,000 in the construction, so it no longer is necessary.
Okay.
Yeah, so, you can see on the bottom, the future parkland purchases, we want to add that 30,000. Arbutus, we want to add that 270,000 so we can get up to the match. Am I reading this correct, Claire?
That's correct, yep.
Parks Capital Trails, leave that there, because that's for Tart on 3 Mile, yes?
Yep, that'd be for matching TAP or other grant funds.
Kind of our good faith, goodwill contribution, if I tell my brain remembers. Okay, so, and then we talked about deleting those 2 accounts. Jens Park, if you guys remember Jens Park, we were gonna make the changes and then the water level rised. And so that money's still there, and we're holding on to that.
Yeah, I think Beth was looking at possibly an adjacent property to augment the Jens Park, so just keeping that as an opportunity.
So either a parkland purchase or a park post,
Yeah, future improvement
Yeah,
as water levels go down.
thank you, post-water level
Yeah.
decision. And then the Grace Park McDonald's improvements,
I think that
walk me through this.
Yeah, I think that the high fund balance was originally for a parking lot.
Yes,
That was,
the paved parking lot.
that's been paid for, and so she's suggesting keeping about $50,000 in that fund balance for future improvements.
And then giving back the 60,000.
Or
That being-
reallocating it to the.
Reallocating, yes.
Arbutus number 5.
Reallocating
Sorry.
to the community garden.
I have very primitive language skills. so-
Okay, so we could take that 60.
Yeah, so now we're looking at 60.
And reallocate it then to the community garden for 2022?
Well, there's quite a few there's probably in general, the fund balance has increased for Parks Commission, just with the increase of 270,000 for Arbutus number 5, and then some of the recommendations for 40,000 at Hammond Park, another 40 at the community garden, 40,000 for Pine Grove, 40,000 for Killingsworth.
That's a good point. We are asking for $270,000.
So I wonder if that's what she was going for, is maybe she was earmarking some fund balance, to help cover with those planning, so like if we did decide to, move on with engineering, we would just be moving it from that fund balance into there, so that would make sense.
We're
Okay.
asking for more for Jens Park. Is that what I'm seeing? It currently has 21,000, but we're asking for 8490 to round it back up
To 30.
to 30? Yeah,
Yep.
and we're reallocating the 317, we're reallocating the 874. Yeah, that's a good point. I know. Wait, we still have 60,000. Oh, wait, we're asking for. Okay. So,
Okay, so,
sorry, I'm doing math. Don't-
What's the total?
Well, the current parks fund balance is 280,000, And the suggested balance would bring us up to 680,000.
A change of 350.
Yep, an increase of like $360,000.
Are you, okay, so,
And it's mainly off because we're asking for the match for that 300,000, so. If you took that away, it'd look like we're not,
We're okay.
yeah.
I'm sorry, say that again?
What's throwing it off is that 270,000. So we can match that 300,000.
Right,
So, if we didn't look, if that was subtracted from that, 359,601, we'd be looking pretty good. So I think, that's, we're just not asking for, the moon, because we understand that we're already asking a lot for that Arbutus 5 request, so
yeah.
I think that's reasonable.
So where does that leave us with the community garden?
Consulting fees.
And that's it?
Yeah, because aren't we gonna, well, we'll have to have a match if we want a grant.
Well, it looks,
But we're also not building it in 2021. We're building it, wait, it is 2021.
We might,
We need consulting fees for, I suppose I'm basing my timeline off of the one grant, my experience with the grant that we got for Arbutus number 5. So in my brain, sorry to let you in there, but we're gonna ask in 2021, which is now, we're gonna lay the foundation well, we need consulting fees, Elise. We need consulting fees this year, don't we? For our community garden.
And we have those.
Yeah.
We have those. Okay, so in 2022, we're going to need consulting fees to build all the plans and to go after the grant. So that will be building in 2023. Because that's kind of what I saw with the Arbutus number 5 grant. We needed the money in 19, 20, wait, I can't do it, 2021, to build it next year, because we'll get the money from the grant and the match next year. Was that clear as mud? I'm sorry.
I think we got the 40,000 on that last page here under fund balance for Hammond Park and the community garden. I think those are to cover the engineering costs and stuff as well. And I
Because I'm
think,
assuming if
and I
we get a
think,
grant in 2022, the funds will be released in 2023.
yeah,
but
and we'd be
those
asking for it.
funds for this year is 40, right? Is that what you were saying?
No, for next year is what we're asking for. So on the last page here, down in the bottom right, is, then there's a suggested balance of 40,000. So we're kind of earmarking it within our fund balance request, it looks like. Yeah, I'm reading that right, aren't I? So we're earmarking that 40,000, so, we can pull it from fund balance as we're spending it for the community garden.
So 40,000 in addition, separate from the attorney engineering grant fees.
Yeah, I think that 20,000 that she was
That's two separate
budgeting is just,
Is that right?
an operational budget for
Okay, got it.
regular things, so. So I think, I think we're covered. We're covered for two big projects planning-wise, it seems like.
So it's
Yeah.
suggested 40,000 like for Pine Grove and, 40 for Killingsworth too. So that money could sit in there, and if we run short, we could always reallocate that monies, correct? So we have a little bit of a cushion for the community garden.
And what then about the warming hut?
That warming hut, again, I thought we were pursuing that for yet this year. But that can come out
Well-
of.
That'd be the Grace Mcdonald Park
Exactly,
improvements
because
for
there's money
50,000.
there.
Okay,
Yeah, so
Okay.
it isn't like there isn't any money there. We do have money for that.
okay.
What does, oh, never mind. She's like, what does GMP mean? Okay. I don't know, yeah, this is all making sense now, so I kind of, I think I know how Beth was thinking with this, so.
Yeah.
Does everybody feel pretty comfortable now?
Speak now, or?
Okay, so, I mean, we'll still ask for that additional 12,000 with the, assistance for meetings and stuff, because there'll probably be some, community engagement meetings and stuff as well, and, I think that's safe to ask for, and, if she feels like that 20,000 is good, she'll let us know.
Yeah, I mean, we have a big ask. And it's not like we're asking, they know it's coming yet, obviously. Number 5's a big job. So,
Okay. Well, is there anything further we need to do as far as this? Do we need to,
I don't think so. It's recorded in the minutes, and so
I think we have to take a roll call vote.
well, we're not approving the budget. I mean, we're just
We're
giving
just-
That
insight.
recommendation of
It still has to go in
32,000
front of the board for approval. so.
is recorded in the minutes, and so we can make those adjustments. And
Okay. So if, unless anybody has any other recommendations, I think it's safe to move down to public comment.
We're going to be busy.
Any public comment? Okay. And then I just need a motion
Make a
to
motion to
adjourn.
adjourn this meeting.
I second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
who was-
opposed?
Who was it seconded by?
All right. Gotta be more confident.
Thanks, Elise.
All right, thank you. I try not to make her take seconds, being the chair, but,
Yeah.
I can, so.
And I think that the meeting can be adjourned by the chair without motion, just
I
because
thought
it's
Yeah.
no longer
so
a
too. The
Zoom
motion
meeting.
thing seems like a Zoom meeting.
I think it was for Zoom, it was required.
Yeah, well, I know some in-person meetings are still, they keep it as a formality or something, I don't know. All the county meetings I go to, they just adjourn it and call it good.
Under an hour.
Okay, good job on the budget.
I have a clipboard to return to Beth.